We just got our first look at Sonic X Shadow Generations, and I am so hyped. If you haven't seen the trailer or the gameplay footage from the Summer Games Fest, you need to do it now. We all know Sonic Generations is a great game, and I discussed my expectations on the remaster in my previous video after the game's initial announcement. One thing I didn't expect was adding the drop dash, not only to classic Sonic, but also modern Sonic as well. It did feel like an obvious choice, however, it just never occurred to me that Generations would get gameplay tweaks like that. I think it's an awesome addition, and whilst it won't affect modern Sonic too much, it will really change the way classic Sonic plays. And there could even be skills to improve the speed of the drop dash from the shop as well. Another minor gameplay tweak is a UI change. I was watching Fidel's gameplay posted on Twitter. When he collected a red ring at the end of Green Hill Zone Act 2, a small banner appeared at the top showing that he'd collected the 5th one. This is such a nice improvement to have, as it feels obvious to include a tracker for the red rings in the stage and know exactly which ones you need to go for. The final gameplay tweak worth mentioning is the button layout, and I think this is going to be the most controversial one. Generations controls have been changed to match the controls of Sonic Frontiers, the biggest changes being square for the homing attack and R2 for boost. Personally, I've grown to really like the idea. It felt really natural to platform in Sonic Frontiers, and it never felt like I had to change my grip all too much. Shadow's controls will be the same, so it makes sense to change Sonic controls to also fit that, rather than having two sets of controls for two different games. It might take some time to get used to. However, once it becomes the normality, I think the game will feel even better to play. One thing I wanted to see was cosmetics, things like the soap shoes, the genie ring and the balance bracelet. And we have confirmation that the pre-order includes a low-poly Dreamcast model, and that is more than I ever expected to see. Whilst I don't think it's likely, it does open the possibility of other model swaps, and I'd love to see the Riders and the Heroes models. The reason I don't think it's likely is because it would be weird to have a lot of models, and then lock one of the most iconic ones behind a pre-order. And even if this is only one model swap that we get, it does still mean there will be cosmetics to choose from. Sonic Frontiers also included the soap shoes as a newsletter sign-up bonus, but after that, the costume variety was very limited. There was only the Christmas suit and the Monster Hunter suit. I wonder if we might see a model swap for classic Sonic too, because it would be a bit sad if he was the only character without a full model swap. Even if it was just the Lego model from Sonic Superstars, I'd be really happy with that. Yes, what I'm implying is that Shadow will have a model swap too. Not a Dreamcast skin like Sonic, but rather a skin of Terios, the original character concept which eventually became Shadow. I can't even begin to explain how cool it is. It feels like I need to scream to get my excitement out. There is a huge downside to this, however, and there are more pre-order bonuses to discuss, but I want to focus on the Generations remaster first. There isn't anything new for Sonic Generations that was shown in the trailer. However, if we head to PlayStation blog, it is confirmed that there are new collectibles, bonus content, and a Chow rescue mission in every level. On top of that, the Casino Nights zone will be included. That is so crazy, who could have seen that coming? Casino Nights DLC being included feels like a no-brainer. Whilst it was an obvious inclusion, it is also really cool that the Casino Night Zone is here, and it's nice to have that absolutely confirmed. I'm excited to see what the collectibles and bonus content will be. Considering there aren't any more stages being added in the remaster, I assume these will be unlockable from the shop in exchange for points. The safest assumption would be guessing that the content will be new music, artwork, and character bios from games that released after the original Generations. It would be really cool to race through the stages with some of the cyberspace themes playing, or battle the Egg Dragoon with Undefeatable blaring at maximum volume. I still stand by what I said in my last Shadow Generations video. I hope for more statues in the trophy room. It would be such an easy inclusion, and I spent so long turning them around and admiring them when I was younger. The remaster needs to ditch the code inputs to unlock them. I'd prefer if they were unlockable in the shop for 250 points each, or just have them all unlocked after beating the game. Going back to the PlayStation blog post, I'm really intrigued to see what the Shadow Rescue is going to be. When I read it, my first thought was something similar to Rooftop Run Act 3 in Sonic Unleashed, where there were 10 Chow hidden around the stage and you had a time limit to collect them all in. It's also likely that some of the new collectibles and bonus content will come from these Chao rescue missions, and that would offer a nice incentive to play them. I don't expect the levels to be massively changed in any way, but I think this is a much better idea than the Metal Sonic Races and Colors Ultimate, because hunting for Chao would force you to take the time to look around the levels and play them in a different way, in a method that isn't just memorizing the level and blazing right through it. I'm glad that this trailer confirmed a lot of things I wanted to see from the Generations remaster, but now it's time to get into the real content of the game. The first thought I had watching this trailer was, holy shit, the music! This Radical Highway remix is incredible. Normally I add my own music in editing, but I just have to let this play over the trailer. It is heaven to my ears. There are 2 levels which were showcased, Rail Canyon from Sonic Heroes and Kingdom Valley from Sonic 06. This boosts the known level number to 4, as we saw Final Chase and Radical Highway in the announcement trailer way back in January. The 2 new levels look really good too. They both keep the gimmicks of the original stages, with the rails and trains in Rail Canyon, as well as the gusts of wind from Kingdom Valley. It's still too early to say for sure, but these levels don't seem as engaging as the boost levels in Generations, but they seem more engaging than Cyberspace, and definitely more engaging than Forces. Now that we've got gameplay of the first stage in Shadows Game 2, I feel even more confident in this opinion. There's no doubt that these stages are going to be good. The demo level was a really great length with plenty of routes to take, as well as having the fluid controls of the Cyberspace stages. What we've seen truly looks incredible, and there is no doubt in my mind that this game will be one hell of a package. Not only did the level look polished and fun, but the Bio-Lizard fight looks to be one of the most engaging boss fights in the series. I can't wait to see what the other boss fights and levels will look like. This first showcase has really blown my expectations away. One thing I noticed is that every stage so far is from a game already featured in Sonic Generations. Radical Highway and Final Rush, City Escape. Rail Canyon, Seaside Hill. Kingdom Valley, Crisis City. It makes sense to use the levels from games that Shadow appeared in, which are also represented in the base game. And Sonic Adventure 2 having 2 levels represented could mean more stages from Heroes in 06. I'd personally love to see Aquatic Base and Hanged Castle. Those were some of my favourite stages from 06 and Heroes respectively. There's also a new ability shown during one of the Rail Canyon highlights, where the game has a grayscale filter on everything except Shadow, the rings, and the spikes in front of one of the trains. And this is a new spin on Chaos Control. In the gameplay footage of Space Colony Act 1, there's a part where timing the use of Chaos Control stops projectiles, and they can be used as platforms instead. I love that it changes something that's dangerous into new paths instead. It's a lot more interesting than the Chaos Control in Shadow the Hedgehog, and it reminds me of Capoonawar from Crash Bandicoot 4. I also think this feels like a natural extension of what the Wisps are. Rather than having to collect an alien to grant a power at a specific time, we get to use Shadow's own abilities, and I look forward on seeing how this idea is going to be expanded. If we head back to the PlayStation blog again, we can read more details regarding the Shadow game, and this is really exciting. Players will witness Shadow's dark origins and explore an all-new hub world inspired by the open zone gameplay of Sonic Frontiers by gaining new powers and uncovering hidden secrets throughout the area. That is correct. We will have a brand new open zone. This is beyond any expectation I had. I was anticipating a 2D hub world like Sonic Generations, but a whole new open zone to explore? That's awesome! There's also a small promotional image that's been shown, and it looks really cool. There's barely any springs, dash panels, or rails visible, and I don't think this is a case of pop-in either, because the draw distance looks great, so I'm really hoping the white space open zone will be more momentum-based platforming rather than the gimmick platforming of Sonic Frontiers. Going back to the pre-order bonus screen, we get a glimpse of the box art, and it looks okay. Shadow is front and center, and it truly emphasizes that this is Shadow's game, just with Generations as an added selling point. But it feels like a fake box art I would have seen 10 years ago. And that impression isn't helped by the same renders of modern and classic Sonic being slapped to the side. The background is great, with a gradient representing both games, but due to the posing of the hedgehogs, the Generations part feels obscured, And this again only builds on the point that Generations is not the focus with this game. The other pre-order bonus is a journal belonging to Gerald Robotnik containing all the details of Shadow's creation. This is such an awesome thing to add, and it shows that the lore team they hired are really putting their efforts to good use. I did see this on Twitter before the Games Fest, and I assumed this would be a digital unlockable, but no! It is available with the physical pre-order only, meaning this journal will be an actual journal, one we can hold in our hands. One thing I haven't yet discussed from the new trailer is this shot here. If you aren't aware, there's a popular fan theory that Gerald designed Shadow based on the mural in Sonic 3. And as you can see, that also depicts wings. The showcase page of Gerald's journal also displays a sketch of Angel Island. Did Sonic Team just confirm this theory to be canon? There was already some environmental storytelling in Sonic Adventure 2 that hinted at that, but it's nice to just see this go even further. Remember the Terrier skin I mentioned? There's a darker side to the pre-order that I hinted at earlier, the Digital Deluxe. As cool as this skin is it worth an extra £10 to you, knowing that modders will just add in an alternative anyway? And just above that, we can see a whole additional level and skin will release for Shadow. I'm not too sure whether the additional skin means Terios or a second one, but considering the movie also releases in December, I could see this being a movie skin, and that could tie back to what I was saying earlier about having more skins in game than just the two shown here. However, as exciting as the skins are, the additional level feels very wrong to me. Having skins is fine since they aren't blocking you from accessing anything in the game. With or without a skin, the game will play the same. But paywalling the whole level behind a Digital Deluxe is just forcing people to shell out more money if they want to access everything in terms of gameplay. At the very least, I hope a Digital Deluxe upgrade can be bought for a small fee, so that people who pre-order the physical copy won't have to pay £55 for the game digitally just to access a level and a skin. Extra music plus a digital art book and soundtrack are pretty standard for a Digital Deluxe. But the other bonus is what really intrigues me. A few months ago I speculated that Shadow will have combat abilities, and right here we can see that the extra skill points will be granted with Digital Deluxe, meaning Shadow will have a skill tree much like Sonic does in Sonic Frontiers. This heavily implies and confirms the existence of enemies to fight in the open zone, which would have been expected. If there were no enemies to fight at all, the open zone would just be open. There wouldn't really be much to it. I'm really excited to see what moves we can learn. The most obvious guesses will be Chaos Spear and Chaos Blast, but I'd also like a move where Shadow instantly teleports behind an enemy for a counter-attack, or some stronger variations of basic attack combos that might look similar to his attacks in Sonic 06, added with a finisher move taking inspiration from his ever-iconic roundhouse kick.
Lick my balls.
With combat being confirmed, I also wonder if we'll see mini-bosses or whether it will just be the regular enemies. I feel mixed on the mini-bosses in Sonic Frontiers. Some of them were fun, and then some of them were shark. As long as they don't force you into a long segment that removes your control, I'll be glad to see them return, especially if they make use of Shadow's unique abilities. The final thing worth mentioning is the Digital Deluxe granting 3-day early access to the game. I really don't like this, and it's been happening with more games recently too. The early access isn't even available for Nintendo Switch for some reason. Giving 3-day early access only means that spoilers will be flooded everywhere online. Twitter was bad enough with just this trailer leaking, let alone an entire game. If you don't want to get spoiled, pay us more money! Overall, I'm still positive about the game. We have an open zone Shadow game with a high quality remaster with new content alongside it, and better content than what Sonic Colors Ultimate had, though that bar wasn't very high to begin with. The gameplay shown at the Games Fest demo gives us a better glimpse at Shadow's gameplay, which looks really fun and engaging, and the bonus skins strengthen the game's original point of being a celebration of the series' history. The Dreamcast skin really emphasises the celebration theme that Sonic Generations had, but the Terrio skin takes it up a notch, because we're not only celebrating the past which we have had, but also the past of what we never got to see as well. The issues I have with the game don't come from the game itself, but rather the pre-order model that Sega have opted for. And unfortunately, the Digital Deluxe has been an industry standard for a long time now, and Sega have already employed it in Origins, Frontiers and Superstars, so it was to be expected, but that doesn't make it any less disappointing. Thank you for watching this video. If you have any thoughts on Sonic X Shadow Generations, be sure to drop a comment down below, and make sure you like and subscribe whilst you're down there too. The thing I'm most excited for is Gerald Robotnik's journal and being able to read more about Shadow's creation, and in fact, Sega sent me an early copy of this. Zooey mama. This is the lore we needed!